My conversation today on Behind the Act is with Sean Hagwell. He's a film director and a creative who's inspired me for well over a decade. Today, we're talking about welcoming, if not demanding, failure in the creative process for personal and creative growth, as well as how chasing and never achieving the unattainable perfection allows us to really create art that defines who we are. I'm Seth Schaeffer. This is Behind the Act with Sean Hagwell.
I think you can do a lot of things, but you should just pick one thing to try to get good at professionally. Like in my phase of life right now, I just really want photography started, and it really informed everything I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
So being a photographer is one thing, but growing up on Annie Leibovitz and Herbert Frank and Irving Penn, you think that you can become a photographer on that scale. And when you realize that the world changes, and that's a white hot moment for a minute for photographers to be that on top of the industry, so to speak. And then knowing what film does and what it does for me and the people around, and that I can do that the rest of my life, I think I just decided to move away from being a photographer and just be a film director, and then take photos on the side and make music on the side and do all that shit that comes along with making movies, like production stills and posters and all that shit. That's where I get to use all my photography.
Yeah.
But I don't get paid to shoot photos by anybody.
Yeah.
I've never been paid to shoot photos by anybody. It's always just been as part of a video shooter because I wanted to do it for free. So
Right.
yeah. So film directors, that's what I'm going to die with. I'm pretty sure that'll be my job for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, to answer your question, I thought about that recently, and I was because at the front of your thing, I was like, man, that's right. These people do so many different creative outlets, and I just knew that didn't fit what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, and I think each person is exploring what their next steps are.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, my past has been filmmaking, and my attachment to it has been how powerful of a medium that is. My focus has been more documentary, industrial style, films. And, but I love the way that I can make imagery and music and pace, move people.
Yeah.
But now I'm pushing back heavily into the music side. And I've known you as a photographer and a filmmaker, but I think more in the music video space in the past,
Yeah.
And then I guess tell me now where you're going, what you're doing.
We moved to town to shoot music videos, and that was our job for the last 7 years or so.
In town being Nashville.
Yeah. So we shot a bunch of music videos, and we got pretty good at it. We fucked up a bunch of videos. We formatted cards wrong. We went through the whole process. And then towards the end, the treatments and the concepts for these videos started getting more outlandish, and the budgets started getting smaller. And I would still write large narrative pieces at the front and back of these concepts. And so we started doing this, and musicians started getting to act a little bit, and we started getting to see that we could toss our friends in for this scene and this actor that we knew. And before you knew it, we were just mainly writing films with the music that we were being pitched as the score. Half the time we wouldn't even put the artist in there. It was just we're going to go shoot this on our own. We'll be back in 3 weeks. We're going to, and nobody wanted to do it. Nobody. So we decided to keep shooting our own thing. And we started shooting short films around the ideas that we'd get from these songs that artists would send us, and then pick somebody else to, go shoot the actual video. And some of the ideas were just fun. And we'd find a few actors, we'd go out, we'd put up some sound in a camera, and we'd try to shoot these concepts and started releasing them as short films. And then the industry just moved to visualizers and social content, which is great. It's a whole new platform for people who are starting or want to get into it to go fuck around with artists and make mini music videos without failing on $30,000 budgets on these high stakes situations. So we naturally just felt that we would move on, and nobody pushed us. We didn't stop getting work. In fact, we had to kind of go to all our clients and say, look, we're going to shoot this last one for y'all. We're going to do a few more because we like this artist, but you guys need to start looking for other people because we're going to quit and we're going to move on to film.
Which is very kind of you, by the way.
And they did. They were like, they appreciated it and they started finding other people. And so now we're branching into film. We pretty much do that full time. I would say we actually do that full time. There's a few artists we'll shoot for here and there that we're close friends with, and they give us a chance to play with the narrative. But we branched into film for a few reasons. I like stories. I like telling longer stories. And the community here is engaging. They all want to make film, the actors and directors and cinematographers. It's a really kind of still underground thing unless you're a music video director. And it turns out we get around these people and they're already busy making their own like short films, and they're doing dozens of them a year, and they're just throwing them up on YouTube because they're trying to get work. They want to act, they want to direct. So we get into this world and we have access to just everybody wants to do something. So we start shooting like crazy, and community can really get you like going, because now you have people that go, when you're ready, let me know. Let's go work. And I like that. I like shooting all the time. I love being on set, and I like getting to spend time with Kirsten, who's also my producer. And we do everything together. So basically we go out and shoot these narrative short films. And after about a year of this, we decide that, okay, it's time to start paying people, right? Because like everyone works for free.
Right.
We'd like to just take it a different direction. We'll pay people day rates and we'll go make a film. So we did that. And it was fun, but we kind of understand why people don't fund their own films. It's expensive as hell to try to create this. And putting that limitation of we have to spend money so that people come to set and contribute their time and energy to this idea that we have was our first big hurdle, because we budgeted a film, everybody got paid, it was fine, and you can't do that 10 times a year. Like, it's impossible. So we reformatted this concept into, when we got here, everyone just wants to make films for fun. So what if we figure out how to monetize it for ourselves? And then after many, many discussions and a lot of different ideas and ways to do it, we kind of decided on this idea that each film we shoot, with the actors, the crew, anybody who, is involved in helping us, we're going to split those royalty points out if we charge for the film. So we created this system where everyone gets a share. And then we decided to put it up for rent on the internet, like pay-per-view style. And we charge 99 cents, and that rental gets divided between the cast and forever, in perpetuity, forever, as time goes on. So 20 years from now, who knows how many films you've made and how many people can then sustain themselves because they get these little residual checks and these royalty checks. And as their career grows and our career grows, everyone benefits. So regardless of who moves on to like pursue a career, and not to get super famous and well known, but who stays in this business long enough to like be doing this in 20, 30 years. Those people will be part of films that hopefully when I'm doing this in 20, 30 years, I've grown enough of a reputation as a filmmaker to basically have this entire ecosystem where people are able to go do the thing they love, like act and direct and all these things, because they were part of films when they just wanted to learn and contribute to like what was happening around them.
Yeah.
So that's where we are now.
I love it. Is that platform something it's for your films, or is it something you're sharing with other directors as well? Or
for now, it's just ours.
Perfect. Yeah.
I don't want to tell anyone else how to divide their royalties or like do that kind of thing. So I think right now the core concept is just ours.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. What drives you to create? Because you seem to me to be someone who takes the extra effort to create imagery And you've done that ever since I've ever known you. And I don't know when we met, but it's like well over 10 years ago, 15 years, I don't know. But you always, you take extra bold steps to get, interesting looking people or famous people or whatever, like on camera. And then you're filming, like pictures of your life and sharing that too. And I appreciate that, but I'm wondering like where that drive comes from.
I think if you say you want to do something, you should show people what you want to do. And it's not difficult to follow through for me, I guess. Like you, like we were talking earlier, I'm good to fail because of everything I've ever seen that I appreciated. I've watched and I've learned about the person who made all that stuff and how many times they've completely fucked up, how many times people have gone bankrupt, how many times they've like landed themselves in jail, and they still liked doing whatever they did enough to keep doing it. I think it's easier to create as time goes on if you just put it out. Like hanging on to something is super dangerous for me. I don't like taking a photo and then waiting to release it for the right time. It's going up at noon on a Tuesday. It's not going up on the right time for algorithm this and that. That release for me is both informing the work I'm working on. Like I like to shoot stills. I like to document through photos that traveling and different things we do on our day to day, because it helps me feel creative and fill that gap between those larger projects that we're always working on. The ones that, everyone talks about. I've got this great idea. It's going to be wonderful when it's done.
Yeah.
And while I'm busy trying to get to that, I also have to create some stuff in the meantime, because I think that keeps your mind moving. It keeps expanding, like a certain photograph you may take. It inspires an idea for a location for a film. And all of a sudden you've got new ideas, and I don't understand how you would function in this business otherwise, unless you're constantly creating something
right
to inform the other things you want to do in your life.
Something you said earlier about the allowing other people to come in and, fail instead of failing on a $30,000 shoot or something. Also feels to me like it resonates with the idea of giving permission to play, right? Like, and the model that you're explaining, I think, gives permission for everyone to come play instead of having, investors to make happy or decision makers that are, allowing commercial interests to make the wrong creative decisions,
Absolutely.
I think that's fun.
Yeah, it gives you full creative control.
Yeah.
You'll find out what you're made of, if your ideas are good, if they translate to an audience. Like, to sit and wait for something because you're writing a script, you're pitching a movie, you're pitching ideas around. These aren't tangible things. People could change their minds as soon as they leave that meeting, and you walk away thinking you just landed this investment with a film. We've never gone that route because I don't see the use in it.
Yeah.
I don't see asking people permission to go make something that I think is interesting.
Yeah.
If I have an iPhone, I guess I'll use an iPhone for the time being.
Yeah.
But the point is, the longer you do it, the more tools and the more access you get to pick up the phone, and people just go, I'm in, whatever. I don't need the script yet. I'll just be there. Tell me when. That is what I'm chasing more than anything, is like talent. I'm really greedy for like good talent. I think that's my current pursuit right now as a filmmaker. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you have people you go to right now that are like kind of that are always in your films?
I tend to write for people I'm meeting. So the scale thing is really important, I think, for the way we work.
Sorry, the what thing?
Scale.
Okay. Yeah.
There is a self-awareness that I think you have to have when you're writing a script, a song, whatever. You're as good as you are right now, and write for the people you know that can help bring that to life. And by writing for talent that I know, for actors that I know, for people I meet that I've seen do other films that run in these circles, but I haven't worked with yet. I start writing specific things for them because it's fun to field test. It's fun for them to, I hope, get on set and try it out for just a line or two. Feel like if we have good chemistry, good collaboration, if this is the way you like sets run. And I just think that's a lot of fun to kind of go out and try new actors and try new ideas and kind of expand your world, because Nashville's full of all sorts of different people. You've got actors from all backgrounds, from all ethnicities, from all countries that are all in Nashville working on creative stuff. And they're not from here. So you have a giant talent pool of people who are itching to work. And you've got an industry that doesn't let anybody work unless you're shooting like the new country video. And the casting for that's ultra specific. And I just, room to play. Yeah. I think that knowing your limitations and knowing where you want to get and trying to kind of close your creative gap makes it more fun to shoot. And then there's less pressure. And then you all of a sudden you have a bunch of films and ideas that are coming out, and they're not perfect. They're going to be horrible. They're going to fail compared to what you had in mind for that film.
Mm-hmm.
But the experience of everyone getting to come together when it's all done and watch their either really pretty fun movie or really shitty movie, it's still a fun experience to have done something, completed it, and then know that it's out in the world is kind of documenting that time in your life.
I love that.
Yeah.
Without over defining or putting this in an unhelpful box, how would you define your intention of what the output is of like why you are making narrative films?
I think I was given an ability to communicate in my own way. And I think a lot of people do the same. And watching other people's films, watching other directors' films, writers, actors, people who are telling you all about them as you watch this, it expresses who you are, I think. And I think narrative film for me is a chance to take the things I see in my head when I hear a song, like you see the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you do, but when you create music, you got to see visuals.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think filmmaking is just the cleanest way to do that for me. Being a photographer is great. It's not sustainable for me personally. I don't like to work to the extent that it would require to continue to create at my own leisure, so to speak. But filmmaking is a large process that involves a lot of other people. And it allows me to take these ideas and put them out and have them filtered through the people I trust, like my wife. And she reads everything and writes everything with me and kind of explains to me how people are going to feel about this or what this feels like, even from her perspective, what hit her. And by the time you're on set, you are leaning into those notes of like, well, for me, this is one thing. For her, this is another thing. So let's actually shoot it a little bit of both, because the audience has a hard time with one person's idea. John Carpenter's a great example of that. Like, he's very specific, shoots, scores, animates, does all that stuff, graphics and everything. And when you watch a Carpenter movie, you know that it's fully coming from the brain of one person. And I really like that, but I don't think I'm skilled enough yet to bring all that to life and to understand like the human interaction that is needed to get those movies and those scenes that I see and I just relate to, or that get me emotional or anything. Mm-hmm. So I think that's extremely important for me. Yeah.
I think it was probably about 20 years ago, the first time I started playing with video myself, on some form or whatever. And I fell in love with documentary for myself. This is kind of a weird question, starting with a few different defining points, but I have never really done narrative film. I don't work with scripts with clients or anything. I just, Like literally, if they're like, we have to use this script, I say, hire a different director. Like I'm not right for it, you know? I don't know how to take a vision from a script and make it something that I believe in. But I feel like I'm pretty good at taking the documentary components and shaping a story that makes sense. The next step of this question, that's very long, is it when now our team, and I'm pretty sure Ash still uses like hero's journey stuff to shape the stories off of the interviews that I'll run when she edits. But when I edit, I kind of like flow into nuance of gut choices until it becomes something that is like what it needs to be. How the question, how specific do you follow rules at the end? Do you have rules you have found to be helpful? And how do you come up with a script? Like I mean, like as silly as it is, like as a director myself, a different kind, but like, how do you come up with a script?
The format we figured out, the workflow that works for us in particular, is ideas should usually come out as word vomit the first time, right? You should just try to get as much of it down as you can. If you get something, roll with it. There's a really, really smart way to look at it that I heard recently, which is you can't write a movie at the pace that you can think and talk through a movie. So sometimes you got to just get a tape recorder and like walk through it because your brain processes in real time. You can watch a scene play in real time. It's going to be horrible. You go back through that and then you start rewriting. And again, this is my process personally, but you start rewriting until it becomes like a short story.
Yeah.
A shitty one at best. I'm not a good writer. From there though, all you have to do is think of, well, how the visuals look. And then sometimes it gets broken down all the way into a script. Sometimes it's just a paragraph and we work off of that. Writing is just about avoiding everyone's conditions for writing and even formatting. Some people can't write exterior warehouse day. Like it stops the flow of your story.
Yeah.
It stops the flow of, well, now I got to think about camera and then how are we going to light this shit and then where are we going to shoot it? So avoiding all that into the end is super helpful. But just write a short story and fuck the format, man. If however you want to shoot, if you want to break that down into Post-it notes and that's how you get on set and you show actors, like they're down.
Yeah.
They're willing to learn. People are willing to learn a lot of different ways. And I think being okay with exploring that and knowing that there's no right way to technically do a film as an independent filmmaker is going to allow you to end up with something that looks more like your style because you didn't follow a single rule. I don't know about rule of thirds. I don't understand all that shit. Mm-hmm. I know how to turn on a camera. Mm-hmm. And I know how to aim and like get what I want from my head. The creative gap is really small between me and the camera.
Yep.
Figuring out how to get the people in front of it to like make that gap even smaller. Mm-hmm. That's why you try to write a script. And that's the only reason you have that format is you don't show everybody at the end of the movie, here's the script, by the way. See how good we did, like how close we got it? It doesn't matter. Nobody cares.
Yep.
But if you can translate and communicate this idea you have to a bunch of actors who really like what you do and want to fulfill that for you, that's really all you need, script-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I used to show up because I'm a musician primarily, and then I learned how to try to take some pretty pictures occasionally. And I used to show up to get as many cool B-roll shots as I could get, and then find a song as I'm watching some of those B-roll things to then attach to the song, and then edit the visuals so that their pacing works really well, and then go into the interviews and go, what little sound bites can I do to drop over the top? And what's funny is that like we were doing this for some corporations and they had specific goals and it worked. Like it did a good job. But I felt silly and probably guilty on some level later once I realized flipping the process for me created significantly a better film. So now I don't allow myself to like look at the B-roll and listen to music. I literally like sit down in a boring box of when I'm editing, which I don't do very often at this moment. But when I'm doing it, I sit down with literally only the interviews and like trim that down to like, what's the actual story? And then I go, who's the audience? How do we shape the musical tone first? And then I go to music. So we've got script, we got music, and now it's visual time. You know, so like, and that has created just dramatically more competent films. But I guess I'm just exploring the idea of how at that time I had a skill set of the visual side, and I had an emotional communication that was much more potent and valuable to me than words of music, and I just pushed onto that, not even realizing that like, hey, maybe these words things matter to people too, you know? So
do you feel like that changed your workflow? And kind of, obviously it did. It changed how you approach it. So I think that's one of those things that we were talking about earlier, which is, what is it that makes you want to do this? What like drives you to keep doing it? It's little things like that where you learn that just by doing it slightly different, you got better.
But also leaning on your crutches in order to help things move forward allows you to continue to just create and engage and don't have guilt on it, but still do the thing we've said a few times. So we've said failure, and I don't want to be tropey about it because I think it's easy for us to understand that failure isn't really failure, but like, not succeeding at the level or the goal of a specific output, when approached the right way, allows you to learn, which is not failure. But explain to me what failure is to you.
Mandatory part of the process, I think. I learned on this last film that if you're doing something long form, if you're investing a lot of time, that failure will become a part of it as you go along. So you pre-produce, you're super excited, you get on set, you fail every day, but you get what you need. And then when you get to the edit, you realize you failed a bunch. And so to culminate all those moments together, when you get into post, it's going to happen. If you completed a perfect film from vision to post, I just don't know how that's possible. I don't know how somebody's not going to change one thing that's going to send your story off to a slightly different tone. And failing is something you have to go through each time. And I think I'm preparing myself after one like longer feature film to go through this process every time, be ready for it. Think I'm going to just tighten that gap more and more in this next one and know that I'm going to have to fail a bunch and I'm going to have to feel that way. And I think getting through that, which I went through on this last one, I walked away from that project and I started shooting before I had the script done. Actors were getting 2 pages, maybe just the scene for the day. They didn't even know what happened the rest of the story. And I'm sitting here because I wanted to get shooting so bad that I didn't want to wait for the script to get done because I would spend 6 months refining every line and getting everything. So we ran with it. And Kirsten and I started shooting. And over 3 weeks, you realize that this is not what you had in mind. Or it is, and it's taking a different shape. So failing every day and going, I should have gotten 3 different angles. I should have picked this instead. But you're rushing and you're making a film and you realize that the failure is part of the fun. Like the ability to get through all these phases of creating something and then to want to do it again is proof that I think you should be doing something. And that would go for any creative endeavor, any business endeavor, anything.
Yep.
You go through it, you're going to fail. You're going to ruin everything. You're going to put a lot of stuff at risk, and you're going to wonder if people are going to come back the next time to like work with you again.
Yep.
And now we're almost a year from it. We're going to release it 11 months from the day we shot it, and it feels good now. Like I took time to be okay with failing, push through it. And if you can come out on the other end and not give up on the next idea, then chances are you might have a pretty decent little project that people are going to like, that they haven't seen, that you've seen a million times. And that's just going to all come with the process. So I think it's mandatory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I get anxious when I try something for the first time and it goes well, I'm like,
No, it's gonna go wrong the
I
next
know.
time.
That's why I'm like, what did I accidentally do right? I mean,
Because-
just because I so with the, I guess with the filming side, I don't feel like I often at this point run into an unfixable scenario for the purposes of what I'm trying to do. Like I know how and where to place the lights and what type of camera to, place where or whatever for the most part. Or I might run into technical issues for the most part. That it's like I know what to do because I've made that mistake so many times in the past, and so I can fix it or like avoid it this time. But when I am first engaging in a process, like mixing being one of those examples, like luckily I made plenty of bad mistakes right away. So, but no, but I'm more afraid of getting a mix done and it sounding great than like on accident, I guess is the best way to put it. Like than I am to be more of like a technician that I can like, okay, I know how and what rules to follow to get to this final finished thing, being more of like a craftsman than an artist and that side of it. Cause that's not personally part of my quote unquote art. The music notes and the textures are part of my art, But,
So if you perfect it, do you just walk away for a minute to make sure that you're not too deep in it? Have you ever had that happen where you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, every time. No, I mean, I write perfect songs often. And then I realize later that they were not probably even worth salvaging later, but I allow myself to fall in love in those moments because I think that's what the art needs.
Yeah.
It's like I need to honor this song and be in love with it and just appreciate what those words mean, what that melody means, and make it as great as I can and be like, I'm done. Like this song doesn't need anything else, and that's always wrong.
Yeah.
But I also think on the other side, it's easy to strip away the greatness you discovered in that moment later because you're now approaching it from a different angle. So I want to be cautious with myself too. Be like, don't pull too far away from where you were because that to me is a document of an emotional moment. You're tapping into whatever that flow of the universe is that gave you that collection of notes and words and feelings that like became something. Like, so don't strip it away because now you feel different, honor that like a journal post almost, and or journal entry. But I think there's a balance because it's also easy to not give something the care to get it to a level that you know how to get it to wherever you're at. Skill wise, that could not, I guess, honor that journal entry well enough too. So there's I think an interesting balance there.
Yeah. Being too concerned with living up to the people you look up to.
Yeah.
The films that you look up to, the music that you like listening to, and the production, and not putting it out keeps you from becoming better, like literally every time. So as the projects get bigger and as 2-minute short films become 20 minutes and 20 minutes becomes 50 and 50 becomes 2 hours, like the importance placed on that project, the weight becomes heavier. And I'm becoming more and more convinced now that from the outside, you grew up watching movies and seeing films and looking at photographs and going to concerts. You think that there is some other world to exist in, and you don't really consider that all the people that do that stuff just exist in this world, and that this entertainment thing, while it's super engaging to me and I really am influenced by it and I really love it and appreciate it, the weight is just your own weight, right? It's that the industry's not looking for you. They're not putting the weight on this short film you're releasing. They're not pressuring you. They're not, and there's nothing on the line.
Right.
It's literally your stuff. And as it gets bigger, being able to grapple with the failure and the inevitable glimpses of depression where you're just like, I don't know if I should be doing this. But the shorter those times last, I think the more effective you become and the more artistic you can get with your stuff. There's a lot of people I admire as directors and filmmakers that don't care about things like continuity.
Right.
They don't give a fuck.
Right.
If it feels good, then great, that's the film. And some directors really care about continuity. You know, there's all these nuances. So just knowing that you can move on from feeling the weight of releasing something and putting all of your value into that, and instead realizing this is a very short journal entry and hopefully a long career that people will look back and go, that's not my thing. I like it because I don't understand it. And it's been fun to watch them slowly communicate better and better over time.
Yeah.
That's your job.
Right.
What do we think else is going to happen? We're all going to be like just famous for some reason. No, I don't understand why people want to get famous for their art. It prohibits you from doing and maintaining that kind of purity to what you like to do.
Yes.
And the reasons why you do it, not because being known is a bad thing, but it's too dangerous to a creative, I think, that is emotionally unstable, like most of us are in some form or fashion about what we do, that you should put all that extra pressure on yourself to go out and try to get people to like you even more. It should just, that kind of stuff. So as you get more and more down the road, I feel like the scale of project will get more difficult. But if you think you can just roll in to the pressure that it takes to make this scale of project, like you're saying, the scale we're at right now, to jump ahead and to think that your first thing should be a feature that goes straight to Netflix, it's you're doing yourself a disservice because you're not learning anything along the way.
And again, if that happened, you'd be screwed.
You'd be screwed. Or you're relying on all the people around you to make something. And let's say you happen to pull that off.
Yeah.
Now your name is synonymous with a certain level that you don't know if you can achieve.
Right.
Because you may not have that group of people the next time around. Yeah. So I like the slow build, the slow burn of perfecting that stuff and knowing that I can handle the weight along the way of once I put a 2-hour film out there, there's going to be some expectations of myself, like of what people are going to see. And I have to be ready to actually get that far and to do something that large. And just to know your limitations is a faster way to be creative. Like, slow is smooth and smooth is fast sort of thing like that. That applies to nearly everything that we do.
Yeah. I think also the concept of perfect is so individual based on your perception of what you know to perfect or not.
Yeah.
And even then, if you had something that is quote unquote perfect, we get into a plastic style of, almost AI, or at least early AI, outputs that they're, we can call them perfect or whatever. And really that individual nuance that makes you is the authenticity that fans and people are interested in, where like we wouldn't show up to a conversation. Well, that's not true. Some people do. When they show up to a conversation and they try to be who they think you want them to be, you feel it.
Yeah.
And you feel it with artists. When they show up and they say, they try to be something that they, you think you want the world to be or whatever. I don't know if I said that the right way, but I think I've been championing myself to unapologetically show up and create art that moves me.
Yeah.
Because it's literally the only thing I can control.
Yeah.
And hope that works for other people as well. From a commercial standpoint, I hope that it works for other people as well.
Yeah.
But from an artistic standpoint, I hope that I feel and allow myself to be honored, and other people can at least honor that much,
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we were talking to younger artists who were trying to do the art thing but also cover their bills while remaining authentic to their art, the things that we're talking about, like it's a hard, long game in every way that I know to do art for a living,
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone younger? This is unsolicited advice, so it's probably unhealthy anyway, but
yeah, right. Younger.
And not literally younger. I just mean in the journey.
Creatively younger.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're not going to have a job. Your job's just going to be a lot harder. Honestly, that's it. You can go out and shoot. It's a lot of fun to shoot. It's a lot of fun to create. But for the longest time, I felt like the goal was to not have a job, right? To be able to create full time, to get hired to shoot music videos and do photos and basically float around and go on tour. And, that's a life you can really live very easily. But it's a job. You deal with more pressure because not only are you having a need for a paycheck that you're having to go out and earn and make sure that it's approved by, the 14 people at the label or at the studio and whatever, you're also learning a format that is incredibly detrimental to creating. So my advice would be to understand that nobody's your friend. You are replaceable within a week, and that's okay. If you really like this and you want to create, find a way to monetize it. Go out and shoot fucking stock stuff. Go out and shoot for Film Supply. Try to get on anything you can if you're good and you want to practice. Those are just easy little things to try. Not saying they'll work, but really you're going to have a job and you're going to have to work all the time. So the advice is make sure you want to do it because it sucks. And the failure thing, the cycles that you're going to go through when you create, you're going to deal with a lot of emotional ups and downs and a lot of letting people see inside your mind, which is terrifying in its own right, to put all that out there and have everybody trust you. Things are just it's not just all fun,
Yeah.
And the advice is, if you want to get into creating something, just make sure you like it because there's a lot of people out there that don't love what they do.
Yeah.
And they get in rooms with people who do love what they do, and the separation grows because people have to keep moving forward. So all in all, you really got to like it. Otherwise, you're going to end up 5 years from now going, well, that was fun, but now I'm still back to square one and I don't know what I want to do.
Right. Which is also okay.
Which is great, but go out and create a bunch and make sure that you're not just talking about being a filmmaker or a musician.
Yeah.
If you say you're a musician, you better put out a fucking song at least once every 3 months, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I have no advice, just
I'm doing it once every 40 years so far.
once every 40, yeah. One coming out now. No advice, just it's a reality check, I think. And that's what we've been learning a lot of because we're fully on our own now. It's a job.
In the last 3 weeks to 3 years, somewhere in that, rough range, what philosophical shifts have you found to help your life be better?
When you do this job, you quickly become convinced that it's your ideas that everyone's after. It's what you put on paper, and that's the draw. Philosophically, first of all, understanding that has nothing to do with it. You're communicating an idea that was inspired by somebody else, was inspired by something you saw. It's not yours, right? You can play with it and expand it. But philosophically, understanding that specifically with Kirsten and working so closely with my wife and as a producer, and we love it. I wouldn't do anything differently ever. Philosophically, understanding that people's experiences are different and being around somebody that much and enjoying it and hearing her talk about things and giving feedback on ideas that are very personal to me, things that are kind of expressing my view of the world. Learning to trust somebody else and trust their experience and hear experiences that change your perspective on this character and that character. Philosophically, understanding that you need to respect the audience and respect the people you work with and listen to them. They're fascinating, from your own partner or producer to the actors you work with, and getting a chance to step back and not rush it. Like music videos, you show up, we got to shoot. Like, let's cruise through these looks. We're going to have a good time. We'll break for lunch. We'll have a drink. We'll maybe smoke some weed, and we'll go back and we'll like finish this shoot and have a good time. It's 8 hours. There's not a lot of personal interaction. Philosophical nuance of doing film is that you are now opening yourself up for everyone to pour their stuff into you and vice versa. You're going to hit things on them that they bring home from an argument they had or from something that happened in their life, and knowing that those ideas that you just come up with mean a lot to the people that happen to get them because it was made for them. Like you're saying, that God thing of channeling yourself. And when you see that face pop in your mind, you're like, that's character. And you get to work with that person and you find out that you're showing them things they've never done before. They're getting to experience a whole new skill set, a whole new time in front of the camera. They're getting to push and see if they really want to be an actor. Like, the philosophy of film is, for me, to just keep the ideas coming, because every time I do, somebody relates really, really hard. And if that's just the actor on set, fuck it, that's great. Like, the philosophy of learning people and getting out of your own headspace as a creative, because the ideas are so precious, and letting other people speak into them and share them with other people, it helps communicate and process kind of some of the stuff that you're dealing with and trying to get it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a byproduct of deciding I wanted to be a filmmaker and then finding ways to do it. And now I get to experience these things that I don't think I would ever have touched had I not just kind of run with it. And I'm not talking about moving to Nashville. Like, we moved to Nashville, things would probably still be the same.
Right.
Shoot music videos for the rest of your life. That's great. But those moments where an actor goes, you're not going to believe this. This character is doing the exact same thing that I have been practicing for like months and months and months. And those moments you can't manufacture. You're on to something. And if you just keep following that, things don't seem to go wrong. They'll go wrong. Like, you'll fuck it up. Yeah. You'll mistranslate things. You'll miscommunicate. But for some reason, no matter how bad you do, and this film we did last year that we're about to release in August, it was one of those situations. The idea was cool. The execution was chaotic and a lot of fun. Like, I had a great time as a first-time director on something that long. And, we shot it ourselves. We did sound ourselves. We did costuming. We did Kirsten and I from the top. And going back in the edit and looking at all these things that as we're about to release, you go, people really had a different time than what I remember. And getting to enjoy that now is something that is going to make me focus next time. Slow down, simplify your sets. Know that you can execute this. Like you said, if you fail the first time, you're pretty sure the next time you're just going to like cruise through those little bumps in the road. And work within your scale. Like, make a film that looks high-end, that feels high-end, but that you can do with yourself, an actor, and your producer just sitting there. And if you take your time and you've learned the things and you're ready for failure, you're going to end up progressively stumbling into like these great moments where you philosophically change your mind about, I should just treat people different. I should think about these things, and I should treat actors different, and like crew, it's all the stuff that changes the way you think on a daily basis. So I don't think there's like a philosophical shift. I think it's the idea that by continuing to do this and following that moment of inspiration, you get all the philosophical shift you need, Yeah.
You communicate well about the visions of 20 to 30 years from now, which is time frames that very few people that I know talk about. But you're also speaking well about your grit and showing up every day and crushing what you, what you're doing today. My question is, how do you balance between the view the vision of the long term, so you don't end up paralyzed because of the analytical goals of tomorrow, with the realization of where you need to fail. And then in addition, how helpful do you find it to be to set specific goals for the future? Or are they like more general?
I think they're very vague. I think I have a good roadmap because I'm in an industry that's so well worn by now that people have taken every possible path that exists. So I can see where you end up when you're 90 years old and still making movies. You can do it. If you would like to make films as you get older, you can do it. So knowing that 20, 30 years from now, the vague concept of, well, if I can execute a feature or two a year and then a bunch of short films, and all of those go onto this site where we can charge 99 cents, how many films over 20, 30 years, and this isn't even my future, this is everyone we work with, whether they've been in one film or 15 of them, this idea that I'd like to keep doing this when I'm older is the only thing I think about. I don't necessarily think about, well, we're going to have this by this point, and when I'm 70, I'll have done this and this. It's, I'm 39. I have a lot of time to make a lot of films, and I can continue to do it my way because I've learned that my standard of living can be adjusted to fit with an independent filmmaker. Like, I enjoy my life. I get to focus on creating, and I sustain that by doing things like this, by finding a way to monetize films. And before it was music videos, before every dollar we make from music videos goes back into making a short film. And so you could do 3 or 4 a month. The third and fourth one, you take that profit and you just go fucking shoot something. And learning that on your own dime and in your own time gets you to the point where you go, these are good enough. We should start charging for these. Like, it doesn't have to be much, but shouldn't we just not throw it out to the masses on YouTube and hope that somebody sees it somewhere and it gets like 117 views?
Yeah.
That's a disservice to both like the idea, to us as people creating it, and then to the people that took their time to be in it. If it just goes up on a website that no one ever sees. So that idea of the future is, what have I thought about in 4 years? What have we done since we started making short films? I think we're up to like 11 now. And now that we're out of music video world and we've decided to move on to the next phase of our life, we have all the time in the world and no budget to make films. So I think the natural progression for Kirsten and I especially is we both know how to survive and to keep things tight, and spending all our time together and being as a producer and also my wife, we get to make those creative decisions together. We get to decide how much we're willing to push. And when one person isn't the one like, come on, we got to do this for free. We're going to lose like 10 grand on this shoot, but it'll be fine. And she doesn't understand why we're doing this. That would be difficult. But doing it together, I have the opportunity and the ability to go do things I normally wouldn't do. And half of that is just her being on board to not only learn stuff like sound and to navigate production and to deal with call sheets and actors. It allows us to take risks that we wouldn't normally take if we were doing it alone. You know, it's a lot to take on to create stuff like this. And I think that future seems very easy to me if we just keep doing this. You can't fail. If you have 30 films up with all these people that love making film, you think nobody is going to go watch one.
Yeah.
How does that, that doesn't make sense to me. So if it takes 10 years, 15, 20, 30, at some point, it'll work. I'm extremely confident in that. So
I love that.
That's my future.
That's great.
Look,
So you're not afraid of failure, and
I'm not afraid of it, but I suffer from it. I really do. Like, I have
the fear or the failure or
the
both?
failure itself is like stepping in and getting the shit kicked out of you for a while. And
so when you say you step from it, you mean you take it on?
you have to. If you don't, it'll end up on somebody else, or your project will never get done. It'll end up on your project, and you'll never fucking touch it again because you don't want to experience that failure. But if you can go through it on your own and then reapproach it with a fresh state of mind and realize that you failed because everyone does, and that it's a necessary part of filmmaking.
How do you deal with that? Like, what's the process? Like,
I've only gone through it once, and
you've only failed once.
No, I've not only failed once. I've only taken on this like idea that after a large project with all the weight that was expected of like something of the scale, that I've only experienced that failure at that scale once, and I was like 50-50. I kind of thought, I really love doing this. I don't know if I'll do this for the public anymore. I might just want to make stuff for myself.
Yeah.
And that's the wrong idea because, like I said, all those ideas and all those scripts and concepts, they're there to relate to the people that you're close to.
Yeah.
Because you're getting fed by that community. And in turn, you need to give back to all of them. So, again, being married to your producer is helpful. And she really just sat with me I think it took like over the course of like a month or two, and then right around the holidays, I just bottomed out. I was like, I don't know if I can release this one because I think I need to go shoot something else to prove that I did it. She was like, it's good. You just got to leave it alone and come back to it. And I came back to it, and it's nice, but I've only gone through it once, and it was brutal, but it did teach me that it's probably good to feel that. Yeah. It's probably good to think like, based on the gap between what was in your head and one that ended up on camera, if it's big, it's a lot of depression and a lot of failure to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Like, if you can handle it, that just means you could probably handle a little more. Or if next time it gets easier, your arrogance will grow a little bit and you'll take some more risks creatively. You'll try new things, and fucking up doesn't seem as bad because it's just a fucking movie, right? Like, I'm putting it out, like you said, into little journal entries over the course of my life. And if I wait till I'm 50 for the perfect script so everyone can see my perfect movie, good luck.
Do you think that you connected your success in that to your identity, and failing on that felt like it was an identity failure?
Yeah. It's very personal. Like, you may be making fun crime thrillers, but let's be real, like, that alone, putting a song out that's 3 minutes that gets thrown into Spotify, and that's nerve-wracking enough. Somebody's going to hear it. But knowing that you took all these people's time, there's like 30, 40 people involved in the making of this film. And with all due respect to a lot of people in this town, there's a lot of projects that get shot and never come out because they're not happy with it. And time again, we have talked to actors and friends of ours that just go, I've never seen the film. We did it 4.5 years ago, and it was great. Like, we loved being on set. Never released it. Had it sitting somewhere on a hard drive, and they took all that time to like. So you're kind of pushing people along, and they're pushing you along, I think is the biggest thing that I find most like rewarding about pushing through that failure and depression. Is it's not a failure to them. They're just there to watch a fun movie. Like, they don't care if the continuity's right. They don't care if your sound was perfect. They want to see themselves on screen and go, did I do a good job?
Yep.
Yeah. And watch all their friends do a good job. And like, it's, so to know that it was never yours in the first place, and that you still have to take on all the failure as the person in charge.
Yep.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, but still, I think the same idea. The episode with Ruslan, whether that's before or after this episode's released, there's a moment in there where the camera shut off,
Yeah.
And, I'm frustrated as heck, but I'm like, the conversation was so good, but I have one camera angle and audio. And the first thing I want to do is figure out how to just cut that section out and like cover up my mistakes, But that wouldn't be helpful because the audio section of it is still good.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't be kind to, I guess on one end, it wouldn't be kind to the listeners because they would be missing out on an important part of the conversation. But on the other end, it wouldn't be kind to the audience because it would be me pretending to be cooler than I am. So at what point do you define something unreleasable?
If you were lying about it.
You what?
If you're lying about it, like you said, there's this feeling that if something's too edited, like you said, you're basically deceiving the audience or like kind of cheating the moment.
Yeah.
To manufacture and make yourself look a little more interesting or tighter. And the nuance of cutting to a graphic that just says like fucking lost camera, like, or whatever, put the little thing, that is just something people didn't see today. Like, and that's, to me, that's interesting. It's those little things that people go, well, like I said, the audio was important. What he said was important. Does anyone expect anything of me? No.
Yeah.
If the whole thing was a Mid-Journey graphic of something else, people would probably still listen to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that deceiving the audience in any way or cutting out something just because you didn't think it was cool, it doesn't help anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
How do I watch your movies? And where do I find you? And where do you want people to find you?
So we started this website called nomadcouture.club, and it's just a place where we host our films, and it's in its infancy. I'm still figuring out how to we have to do this all ourselves, and because I want to maintain some sort of control over it and the look and feel. So that's where we're starting, and there's older films for free that you can just watch to kind of get a feel for things we started shooting in 2016 when we wanted to start toying with filmmaking. There's like 10, 15-minute films. There's a few short ones. And the goal is over time to continue to add films. And they get bigger and bigger and more interesting, and the community grows. Yeah.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing with other people you think might gain value from it. My name is Seth Schaeffer. This is Behind the Act.